Okay, guys. First video on that one, our first Zoom call. So I just showed you how to switch the decimal places over here and how to change the name. We will not talk about the multiplier yet. We have the minimum and maximum values. So the minimum and maximum is always for your graphical widgets. We have a graphical widget here for the boost, which you can see. And the minimum and maximum value can define the leftmost and the rightmost values where the graphic will scale. Okay, so if we put a 0 here and a 1, we are going from 0 to 1 bar. Okay, if you're set to PSI, you just enter 14.5, and then the scale goes between 0 and 14.5. All right. We change back the decimal places to 1, we hit apply, and this is now changed in the display, but not yet saved into your TRI file. So if you want to save it into your TRI file, always hit export to display. This will save it permanently, so on the next reboot, you will have all the settings. But if you mess something up, just do not export to display. You can anytime say clear, import again from display, which has got the very first configuration when you connect it to the display. Okay, so again, we have boost bar over here. So we changed it to boost, 0, 1, apply. So we go into the pages, we import it, and we turn on the animation mode. And as you can see down here, the animation for the boost. And as said before, the minimum and maximum value, this is special for the graphical widget. If the minimum and maximum value are set to 0, then the graphical widget gets the setting from the TRI file. As you can see, it goes up to 1 now. Okay? If I set boost to 2, then the graphical widget, not yet, then the graphical widget goes down to 2. So when you, but you can override this for the graphical widget, then you can set your own values. Because this makes sense to set your own values, because these values, the boost, we also use for warnings. So if you set a pop-up here, we get a large pop-up when you exceed your maximum value. Okay, so let's jump back to the graphical widget. Any questions on the TRI file? It's just a basic step into the TRI file. I will not go into deep configuration for that. All right, so here's our basic start screen. In the start screen, in the basic page 1, you can see the page up here on the 1. On the basic page, we have got those 3 little sections on the right-hand side for water temperature. Let me just translate. Intake temperature and oil temperature. So the sensor names come from the TRI file. Plus a big boost gauge. So let's say one basic example is when you want to change one file to something different. So as you can see, it's 3 widgets over here. It's the round meter, you can see over here on the right-hand side. It's the number, sensor value, and it's the overlay for the warning. So if you want to change the sensor, which is shown over here instead of water temperature, we can go to oil pressure. So we change all 3 widgets to the oil pressure. And you can see on the right-hand side, now all 3 are oil pressure. But now we also need to set the the scaling of the sensor. So oil pressure, either we take it from the TRI file or we set our custom values. So oil pressure normally goes from 0 to 10 when it's cold, but you can also say 5. So I'll set this whatever makes sense to you. We can change the colors. So that one is, you can change this to green. So you can, it's hard to see down here in the animation, but I think you get what I mean. And the warning is only for upper crossing. So if the value crosses the upper value, then we can get a warning. This maybe makes no sense for the oil pressure, but example for the intake temperature, we have got a value of 60. Okay, so whenever it exceeds the 60, it starts to blink. And here you give them the frequency of the blink. So this is now 80. Let me put this a little bit aside. Okay. So this is 80. So the higher the number, the slower it blinks. Okay, just play with that, and you will see a nice results here. Overlay type, you can also put this to rectangle, but then you need to put the Y size as well. See here, this would be a rectangle, but as we wanted to fit this little circle over here, we put it to circle, okay? But also we can change the color of the overlay. So you can make it fit your outside color of the car. You can make it fit to your interior. You can make it red. So it's a warning. So whatever you'd like. On that one, we can see, you can see the minimum maximum value. We covered that. The start and end angle is where the graphic starts on that widget. So we can make it minus 90, 90. You see it changes. So best is to play around a little bit with that until you're satisfied, but we can also make it 130 to 130, so that way, okay? But the name is a little bit covered, so 115. Okay. So here's the size, the font size for the name. We can increase. So if you have got a large widget, we can show later. You might want to make a larger one, or just turn it off. If you turn it off, we can simply also add a text value, text field. And here you just enter oil pressure. Does not fit yet. So you see it's a lot of playing around. And we need to change the X size a little bit. So just like that. Can make it centered. You see so many options. And do not forget at the very end, when you're done, press export to display to finally save it into the SD card. So if you mess something up like this, you can always import from display and it reverts back to the last saved state. So change colors, basically change everything you want to. This is just a text field. We can either remove it or press enter boost or PSI. So whatever you would like. Have you got this? Yeah. This little number, it doesn't work in the animation mode, but here is a normal text widget and the sensor assigned is boost. And here's something special. We take the maximum value. So this will show you the maximum value of the boost, which the gauge saw during the runtime. There's an option that you can reset your maximum values with this little special button. We can talk about that later as well. So this will always show you the maximum if you tick maximum value over here. If it's unticked, you see, you will see the live value. But we want it to be the maximum value. Let me know if you have any questions on changing an existing site. Put it into the chat. While you put it into the chat, I just go on explaining. So when you go through the list here, you always see which widget is that. So one hint could be the sensor, but you can also, for example, if the overlay is in the way, you can temporarily hide it. So it's just for the graphical interface for the DSS. You can hide certain widgets to make editing a little bit easier. Okay, because we have, for example, let me go to another page where we have a large shift light widget like this one. The shift light widget is here. Where is it? The overlay. It's already in the background, but here you can see you can hide it, so you have a clean view to the background. That's what it's used for. So let's go back to page 1 again. You can resort the widgets, so you can decide which widget is in the front and which one is in the back. For example, for the sensor value, so we have the sensor value and the overlay, and we want the overlay to be above the sensor. You can see that the overlay now is above the sensor value, and that way you can sort the sensors. Do not forget, if you sort the sensors, from time to time do an export to display, because sometimes we still have a little bug I need to trace down. So do an export to display from time to time, that it got saved into the display. We can go to another page. So here it's pretty easy, which you can also do on the screen itself. You have your sensors, and you can change to a sensor which is currently not shown. For example, wastegate duty. Not sure we need that. We have another extra here. We will show this later. And here it's nicely, because you see the overlay, you cannot reach the gear widget over here. So we remove the overlay for now, and now we can access the gear widget. Another way would be we tick the overlay and then we select the gear widget. That's also a possibility. So we see here the gear widget, so we can set this up from here as well. Okay, the overlay. And if you select a widget, let's untick the overlay for now. Select the gear widget. Now you take the arrows, those 4 on your keyboard, and if you take, you can adjust the widget position slightly. You see that? Top, bottom, left, right. And speaking about the keyboard, you can also hit the delete button. This will delete a widget, and with escape we cancel the dialog. Okay, so it's a little bit better to adjust the position of the widgets with the keyboard. We also have a help button over here, which you can see. So here there are also some hints, and here are the shortcut buttons. We can copy paste widgets, and with the arrow keys we move the active widget. And on the help button we also document all the widgets which there are, vertical bar, round meter, and so on, and we give you a help on the settings of each widget. This will change from firmware to firmware, so always nice to have a look here, to have a quick help. As you can see over here, it's a little bit tricky. We have a lot of widgets above each other. So we have a round meter, that one. We have another one. And if you hide them, you can see which one you're currently changing. Okay, so that one starts from orange. We can make it start from green. Plus, we can make it start a little bit earlier, not only at 4.5. Maybe we should write this down. Check if it's working. Here we go. Okay. For the needle, we have a little ghost which shows the maximum. If you don't like it, just put it to 0, and then it's off. Otherwise, we put it back to 3000, which is 3 seconds. So you'll see the little ghost value for 3 seconds. Wait until it shows up. You can see. Let's hide the overlay. So let's say you want to change the little picture over here. So we go here, and we have some pictures down here, but you can also upload the pictures. Okay, let's say you have a Supra and you want to change the logo, and you see the pictures. We have a blend color. First, let me show you the ignore color. The ignore color, we can make a transparent background. So the ignore color, mostly it's black. So when the color is black, it gets ignored, so not drawn into the display. You see the Supra has a black, the original picture, which you can also see in the DSS, has a black surrounding. So with the appropriate setting, the ignore color to 0, then the black gets ignored. We also have a blend color. Let's set the blend color to red, and let's say we blend via 20%. So we can turn the pictures into another color. It's not 100% pixel perfect, so you see this gets a little bit different, but at least the possibilities there. Depends if you need it or not. When you upload a picture and you're not satisfied with the result, and you change it and you upload it another time, it's always important that you do an erase flash up here. So the display has an internal flash storage. So the pictures are stored on the SD card, and for faster loading, the pictures get loaded into the flash. So when we change a picture, we need to tell the flash to recopy the picture from the SD card into the flash. So what we do is we erase the flash to get all the pictures again from the SD card, and the display loads the pictures as soon as it accesses the picture. So if the picture is not in the flash, it copies it over from the SD into the flash. So that's why on the first display of a picture, it could take a little bit longer to cache the display from the SD into the flash, but afterwards it gets real quick. Okay. If you can see, if you change something, we will see this later. Maybe not because everything is on there. If you get an older display from generation 2, and we keep on adding pictures to the SD card, and if the picture is missing, the display will tell you pictures missing. You will see a yellow bar on the bottom. So if that is missing, and if it's the standard picture from the DSS, you can select it over here. Let's say that one, and just hit upload. This will then upload the picture from the DSS to the SD card of the display. And you'll see if it's successfully uploaded, you will get a hint over here. This is for the internal pictures, right? Because we also add from time to time those predefined pages. And if you see a new page, and we keep on adding pictures here, you might need to upload the picture which is missing, so the display will tell you down there. But you can also see the picture name on the right-hand side, so you know that, okay, the picture VADBG is missing. It's not shown on the display. You go to upload, select your VADBG over here, and then uploaded it into the display. Okay, let's say you want some more pages, or we add a new predefined page to the DSS, and you want to load this into the display. So go over here. We go into an empty one, or if it's not empty, let's show this, and we just got the logo down here. We can do a clear view. This will delete all the widgets, export to display, and then this page is also empty. So let's say we want to add this one. As you can see, the pictures are still missing. So first, to put the pictures on the screen, you need to do an export to display. Here we go. So we got the pictures over here. We have the RPM bar. You see the RPM bar is quite large. It covers the picture below, so we hide it, and then we can see the other picture down there. And we added the RPM bar in a firmware. I'm not sure exactly in which firmware. And here we can have one RPM bar per page, which is not exactly true. We can have the same RPM bar several times, but the picture can only be the same because of memory limitations. So that case, we have the Q8 V1 picture. We again have the blend color, and we have the ignore color. As you can see in the picture in the DSS, it's black all around. So we need the blend color, we need the ignore color. Plus we add the minimum and the maximum value, which is 8,000. So if we change this to 3,000, takes a little while. So when the RPM drops below 3,000, it then starts to slowly decreasing. You see that? Okay. So that we put it to 8,000, back again, and it goes nicely up to 8,000. These little guys are just numbers. You can change them to your needs. Some people ref until 9K, some people 10K, some diesels just 5. So these little text fields, adjust them to your needs and position them to your needs, so you're pretty flexible on this part. But let's say you don't like this RPM bar. You want to add another one, which is, so let's start from scratch. RPM bar, and we have got one which is called AIM. Here we go. So that one. And as said, if you put pictures into the page, first hit the export to display, and then you can see the bar. Hey, but it's not moving. Why not? Because minimum maximum are not set correctly. And here we go. It's already working. With the blend color, we can play again. It's a little bit, turn it into red. The percentage, we wanted to turn into red. Is it red? On the screen, it's red. It's hard to see. Plus, we have a little background picture for that. So we add a picture. And the picture is AIMBG. That one. I see it's now in the foreground. We want it to be in the background. Adjust the position a little bit. All right. So now we can add more widgets as we need them. We can add sensor values, can make them smaller, maybe not too small. Adjust the X size, the Y size. Oh. And as you can see, there is a max, it is red surrounded. So whenever you select the widget, it shows you the maximum, which is set either for the sensor or for the widget. So you can see how it maybe looks like. So right now here, it's red because it says max warn is ticked. So if we untick this, we can have a little warning on the widget. And the warning is attached to the minimum and maximum value of the sensor itself. Okay, so let's say we take intake air temperature. In German, it's Ansauggtemperatur. So Y size, make this a little bit smaller, 40, just like that. So when the intake temperature is above 60, the widget will turn red. This is so you can see instantaneously that there's something wrong. You will see it with the blinking of an eye that something is wrong with your engine. Okay, you can set this for oil temperature, you can set this for EGT. So everything which is shown on the display, you can have a nice little warning on the display. Let me show you. You can copy paste the widget. So click the widget. No, doesn't work. So we add another sensor value. So maybe we now add water temperature. Sensor value, water temperature. That is about the same. Or let's take oil temperature. So whenever the oil temperature is below the set minimum, it gets blue. So you know, okay, watch out, the engine is still cold. Hang on, that's the oil temperature. We now want to set the warning on the oil temperature. So let's say below 60, I just want to show that the engine is still cold. We do not save it yet. You see, so the widget turns blue when it's below the minimum, and it turns red when it's above the maximum value. You can do this for EGTs, for everything. So whenever a widget is shown on the screen, you can do that. Or another possibility for the warning is we do not, because we want to have a sensor warning, a big pop-up coming up. So we change this to not do that, but we add an overlay. And we make the overlay 105, like that. Take the oil temperature, and we want it to blink above 130. Not sure if that works in the demo mode, but it works on a live display. Yeah, here we go. It works. You see? Now you can also, on the overlay, you can adjust the time to blink it slower. like 500. You see, it then starts to blink slower. Okay, we unselect it. And you can see on the screen, so if you drive and something is blinking, it will grab your attention. Hang on. Here we go. Okay. So either put it on the widget or have a different overlay like that. So this way you can also add like a 500. So let's say we have this oil temperature warning. And we also have these little icons. Talk about oil temperature. So where's the oil temperature icon? Here. So the value is 130. When it's bigger, equal 130, then blink. And we change the color to red. Wait until it crosses 130. Yeah, you see, now it's blinking. So another possibility to grab the attention of the driver with an icon. Okay, we have different ones. We have for an intercooler, or we have a simple exclamation mark. Another one, you can attach an indicator. So whatever you would like. Okay, but let's remove. Now let's keep the icon down here. That's fine. And the same thing is, let's say you do not like this RPM bar, we can also make it a horizontal bar like this, and then attach whatever you would like. Your EGT. You can select left to right. And change the icon to, do we have an EGT? I'm not sure. Do you have one? So we can remove the name, can remove the little maximum number, 33. Do an export to display once in a while. Now you can see that you got the, we need to change the EGT as well. EGT, and then above 900. If you do an export to display, no widget is selected anymore. So you can see how the animation is working. Okay. What else is there? We have got the gear widget. The gear widget is a little bit special because the gear widget is attached to your sensor init of the display. So we go to other settings, sensor init. So over here, we need to set the gear to Have you got the gear calc down here? If we do not have the gear calculation, oh, here it is. We need to save this, and this gets into effect after a display reboot. We will not do that. Shall we do? So we need to save it. It saves all these settings into the display. For if you have got a DSG, we have got also the gear mode, and the gear mode shows the PRND. And the gear widget then takes this also into account and shows the stuff you need. So right now we have the gear mode is set to NA, though that's why nothing. That's why we only see a gear number. Change the font size a little bit and export the display. And now we can see the gear up here. So either we get the gear from the canvas. Right now it's set to gear calc, so the gear calculation. So the gear calculation, we have a little video Ferdinand did. You can do it nicely on the screen itself, but you can also do it on the screen itself. So on the sensor in it, we need to set RPM to RPM, speed to speed, so the display knows where to get the sensors from. And in the gears, you then enter the ratio from RPM divided by speed. So if you want to do that, first check the sensor unit on the display itself. I can show you. We have a nice thing. So, sometimes the DSS doesn't disconnect correctly. So we go down here, go to setup, sensor init, we set the gear calc, but we haven't saved the RPM. But set the RPM, set the speed. And now we can go to gears and it will show you too slow. And now when you start driving, it will show you the ratio of the gear. So let's start demo mode. It doesn't work because it's not saved yet. Here we go, it works. So the ratio is now 28. Let's say you got the fourth gear. So we take this 28 over there. Then you shift into the next gear, and then you hit the gear where you're currently in. And that's it. Don't need to do more. That's it for the gear calculation. Okay, so pretty easy. Back into our DSS. Do not import again. Pages. I'll show you what the grid lock is. Put the grid lock to 20, enable it, and now we have, you position the widget not only one, but by 20 pixels. Okay, change it to 20. This is good when you want to position widgets to your needs. For example, this one over here. Export to display. So here you see the grid lock makes it easy to position the widgets next to each other. Which is now pretty easy. You see they snap on the grid you selected. We can revert this back if we do just import from display. I can see in the chat how I upload a picture. We upload our new picture. Uploading, done. You see our BG 1234 has been uploaded. You need to do an import from display. We add a new widget, which is a picture over here. And now we look for Is it BG? Here we go. Has it been selected? No. BG over here. Export to display. Here we go. Okay. It has the correct size. Ferdinand was so kind to prepare that for me. So easy as that. So on the TRI editor, there was a question on the imperial units. So we have different TRI files. We have a TRI file for G, that's German, with metrical units. We have a metrical TRI file. We have an imperial TRI file, which contains imperial units. But we also have a hybrid one and a UK one. If the TRI file is not available for you, then, or the appropriate TRI file, we will release a firmware in the future where you can select if you want to have imperial or if you have a metrical unit. But we introduced also the multiplier. So if you have got a boost, and let's say it's in bar, okay, we can easily add the multiplier, which is currently 1, and to get to PSI, it's 14.5. Do we have our boost? We have the boost down here on the gauge. So we enter the multiplier, hit apply, and we need to export the display. Does it work? The multiplier is not. You can see the multiplier is not used in the demo mode. We need to adjust that. So so use the multiplier to do little adjustments to the sensors, for example, from boost to PSI, or if we have got lambda, but you want it to be in AFR, it's 14.7. And just change it to AFR. You might not need the decimal place on the AFR, or maybe just 1 instead of 2. So change that. So that's the multiplier. I think we will release the firmware in the next week or the next weeks with this multiplier. So watch out. You should also change the minimum and maximum value, so which is 10 and 20. So it moves nicely, or you use this for your warnings. Okay, so that's the multiplier. You can also use this for speed. So if you have speed in kilometers per hour and you want it to have in miles per hour, it's 0.62. So we just enter 0.62. So now it's in miles per hour. But you can also make it the other way around. If the speed is currently shown in miles per hour and you want kilometers per hour, just enter a different multiplier. Intake temperature. If we always show the names, you can also remove the name on the widget itself. If you don't like the name, change it over here. Make it not Ansaug temperature, make it EAT, intake air temperature, or intake T. Hit apply, and then it's hard to see. Now it's intake temperature. Okay. Do not forget, in your TRI editor, do an export to display to save it permanently. So we have got the analog inputs down here. You see AN1, AN2, 3, 4. If those are missing in your TRI file, you can add them over here and then simply hit apply, and this gets pushed into the display. So if that's missing, just add them, hit apply, and then they will appear down here. Okay. I can see a question regarding the temperature sensor. Let's say we have got our temperature sensor. Let me just show it. Let's display it so we can see it. Export the display. Okay, now it's set to that one. I have got a little knob here where, let me turn off the warning. So we can see actually the sensor, okay? Here. The sensor is attached to a little turn knob. So on the analog inputs, we have different options. We can have them set to NTC. That's a temperature sensor. It's off, so we don't do any calculation. We just show from 0 to 123, which is the ADC reading of the microprocessor. We have a map, which just adds a linear sensor. So all pressure sensors, almost all pressure sensors are linear. For external lambda sensors, travel sensors, you name it. Whatever is linear, you can enter them here. You can step into the calculation and you can enter your voltage. So for the pressure sensor, for most of them, the data sheet gives you the appropriate values. So this is a typical pressure sensor from 0 to 10, goes from 0.5 volt to 0, or from 4.5 to 10, which is a bar. If you want to have PSI, simply add your PSI values. So 0 is 0 and 10 would be 145. So check the data sheet. Each sensor should come with a data sheet, at least ours do. And then hit calculate, see the numbers changing, or revert back to bar, see the numbers changing, hit OK, and you can see the values then over here. Don't forget to hit apply. If you want to change the sensor type, for later on, we use this for the internal calculations. If you switch between metric and imperial units, you simply select what kind of sensor this is. It's a pressure, temperature, speed, combustion ratio. Combustion ratio will convert between lambda and A4. That works. We add a decimal place. Now it goes nicely between between those two. And if you do this for a NTC sensor, calculate, enter the 3 temperature resistor values over here, hit calculate, hit OK, apply, and then you can see the temperature going up and down. Do not forget to add a 1K resistor if you wire in a NTC sensor. So we need a pull-up sensor between the signal and the 5 volt. We add a pull-up sensor to each display. If it's missing, just hit us up, or you can find 1K resistors anywhere in the internet. And wire this pull-up sensor between signal and 5 volt, so we get a voltage out of the sensor. And the pull-up sensor is named here. This is 1K. If you use a different one, enter a different pull-up resistor value. And then enter your min and max, and you're done. Save to display. Chris has a question regarding his NTC sensor. Chris, be sure to enter the correct values in here. Well, NTC, calculate. But what you can also do is, if you do not know the correct values, you simply measure them. So take a voltmeter, turn it to resistance, measure the measure the resistance between both pins of your sensor, and get to know the temperature. So one would be room temperature, like 20 degrees Celsius. One, put a sensor into the fridge, wait a couple of hours, take it out, measure the resistance, which is like, don't know what your fridge is set to, -10. And put the sensor into boiling water, which is 100 degrees. Now you have got 3 sensor resistor temperature pairs, which you can enter into the table here. So I hope this helps. We will have the advanced mode. We do not step into this today. We will do another session where we show you how to set up your custom sensors over here. That's why we just leave it off for now, the enhanced mode, and then we'll have just the basic setup information, which are most popular. We will have another session on the canvas topic. We can also discuss the CAN switch stuff, where we set up our own CAN transmit, or we transmit a custom frame on that. So Björn, we will do this in another session. Did we cover all the different ones? G-meter, I think almost all of them are clear. You can go to the performance meter again. Here, just to show you the settings on the performance meter, you just set the unit and the speed sensor and the unit. So if you change the unit to miles per hour, we go between 0 and 60, and on kilometers per hour, go between 0, 100, 0, 200, and 100, 200. Okay, that's the difference on the speed unit. So that one is a little bit tricky. A lot of customers ask us if we can, if they can switch to 6-cylinder. Of course you can with our DSS. We have them prepared over here. We have 4-cylinder, 5-cylinder, 6-cylinder, 8-cylinder. So if you have got a 6-cylinder, just load that one and do an export to display. That's it. Now you switch to a 6-cylinder. And on these little guys, they are set, so B, so they are set between -20 and 0. So that's the ignition retard per cylinder. So we use this on the OEM ECUs for the BMWs and Volkswagen. We get the individual cylinder retards from the ECU. Oh, and one nice thing is that behind these, that it's not just removing the bar. We have got a red rectangle. Do they go down there? Not really, because it's set to EGT now on the TRI file. So that's why they do not go down correctly. Okay, here's the big shift light bar, the big shift light on the screen itself. So that's why it's blinking. And we can change it by just changing here to 7,000 to 6,000, or we simply delete the widget and we remove it. And then we say, oh, we removed the wrong widget. Do an import again from display, and then it's back. Another point which came up in the chat is now I can show you how to, let's say you got a TRI file, or your TRI file is missing from the display. So we have a large database of all TRI, TRX files in the DSS. So let's say yours is missing, select it, for example, for the DEC, and then hit upload. And this will push the TRI, TRX file into the display, and then you can activate it on this pop-up. So do you want to activate it? Yes or no? No, we do not want to. But that way you can also change the TRI file directly from here. So theoretically, you can set up everything on a display without even using the touch. Because on some applications, we hide the display behind the cluster, on the Audi 80, for example. And here we do not need the touch screen at all. Let me show you one thing. In some cases, you can change settings on the screen itself. So I just say disconnect over here. And on the display, see, it's not possible to touch these widgets because the page is locked. So go to Setup, go to Pages. You see the pages are locked now, so we make them editable. But you can also hide pages if you do not want to see the pages. So if you swipe through the display and there are certain pages we do not need at all, we just disable them. Okay, we made page 2 editable. And now we can select the widget, we can hit sensor, and we can change the sensor to oil temperature. All right? Wastegate duty, sensor, ECU temperature. It's difficult on these bigger ones. I do not recommend to change those. But we can see as an example, on the first page, it's possible without the DSS. Like here. As you have seen before, it's 3 widgets. Okay, one is the round meter. We can also change the minimum and maximum values over here. We can see it's a round meter selected down there. If you press again, we have the warning, the overlay selected. We can change the max value and change the sensor. Plus the third widget is the sensor value. We see the sensor value down here. So we can also change the sensor value on this one. So that way it's also possible to do it on the screen directly. It's a little bit more work, and you need to make sure to change every widget with the sensor. All right. One question which also comes up from time to time is how to change the boot animation. I can show you that one as well. We say import, and we leave both switches as they are. And now we are loading every page into the DSS. The DSS caches the pictures, and you will see a nice overview of all the pages in your display, and you can hide and unhide the pages from the DSS side. This takes a while. Page 6. Nine, and the last one. Okay, now we got the overview. And here we can also hide the pages. Yeah, that way it gets instantly hidden on the display. You can hide them and unhide them. Okay, so go to page 7, we select page 7, and now if you go back to pages, you can switch to another page. Okay, that's the difference between these two modes when you initially connect to the display. So another thing is we could change the boot animation of the display. So we have this little animation on the display, but let's say you just want to have your own logo on the display. Let me show you. We enable the animation, splash screen. This is also possible on the DSS. So we set the splash screen to 1 second. just to show you the current animation. So this is our default startup animation. All right. If we now connect to the display, we go to upload, and then we say delete start animation. This will delete all the picture which are used by the animation or as a boot logo. So we delete that. And here it will already tell you when you upload a new one, you need to erase Flash afterwards. Okay, so we delete that. It's done. All logo files are deleted. So what we do now is we choose our own file, which is, and the name needs to be logo.bmp if it's a single file. If it's a start animation like we use, it needs to go from logo 00 to logo, I don't know, 25. Okay, subsequent pictures and each picture will get loaded by the display. So we uploaded the logo. What we now need to do is erase the flash. I described this before. It will now erase the pictures from the flash, not from the SD card. The flash is just a buffer for the SD card, so the pictures get loaded faster. It takes a while. We will wait for that. Do not disconnect your display. Just leave it running. It takes a couple of seconds. You can also do that from the display directly. If you swipe down, you can find it below the point sensor init in the display. You will have a point flash erase, which will show you that. So we are done with that. We just disconnect. All right, and we reboot the display. And this takes a little bit longer. And as you can see, here's a startup picture. This will also take a little bit longer, the first load of the pages, but then it's fast. Let me start a second time. You see, much faster. When we now slide to a page which also has pictures, this takes a while. It caches the picture, and then it's there. When you go back and forth, here we go, fast again. Takes a while. Just on the very first load of the page, it caches the picture from the SD card into the flash. You go there a second time, you see, pretty fast. So once you're done, you go through all the pages. Some pictures are already cached. Here we go. So let's say we have our page 1. Let's define our start page. Setup. You see the start page is set to last used. So if I change to that page and I reboot the display, it will start on page 2. If I change back, restart the display, it will be on page 1. All right. So let's say we do not need page 2. So that's why we disable it. We disable page 2. You see, we straight go from 1 to 3. But we can also set on the start page, not last used, but we can set it to 3, which is our performance meter. Change the page to another one. If I restart the display, it will come up at page 3. On the start logo or the start animation, we can also completely disable it. And that way, the display will start under 1 second. That's it. That's it for the start page. Next question is, sometimes it happens that it's an SD card, it's a file system, sometimes files get messed up. So what do we do if DSS gets locked on one page and doesn't continue loading, or the page is somehow broken? So what we do is go to pages, So let's say it's page 3. We enable, disable a couple of times, and then it says deleted. So what we do now is, you see page 3 is empty. It got wiped. Just as a little exit, because sometimes it could happen, should not happen. But if that happened, delete the page. And then with the DSS, you can, of course, connect. If it's a standard, those are still cached. If it's a standard page, just go for load predefined page performance meter, push it to the display, and we're back again. All right. So one thing, when you move through all the sensors and you say, let's say you rename that one, when you use these buttons, it gets automatically applied into the display. So when you hit apply, it's the same as if you go here. Let me show you this on a live page. This is hidden. So you see intake temperature, rename to IAT, intake air temperature. You see it got instantly renamed on the sensor. Also, when we change the decimal places, it adds a decimal place. Remove that one. And if we hit apply, it does the same. Guys, have a nice weekend. For Germany, it will be a longer weekend. We have Monday off. So yeah, thank you very much and have a good evening.